Hello ladies and gentlemen, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to do one of the most common things in modern games. Whether you hate it or love it, collectibles are a key concept to a lot of the games that are released nowadays. Big games like Far Cry, Grand Theft Auto, Assassin's Creed all have some form of collectibles in. Sometimes they're useless, you just pick them up and you get a thumbs up. Other times they unlock some cool features. So in today's tutorial I have my demo Roman map here, and I'm going to put some collectibles around this map that you can go and pick up. This collectible code will be completely generic, so you'll be able to apply it however you want, and I'm going to give you two different versions of doing it. One where it counts up to it, so collect 7 scrolls in this kingdom, and then the other option I'm going to give you will just mark a task off as complete every time you pick it up until you complete them all. And as a little bonus at the end, I'll just show you quickly how to unlock something once you've collected all the collectibles. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a quest. So I'm going to go into my narrative and I'm going to my quests. I'm going to create a new folder, and in here I'll just call it collectibles, and in here I'll right click narrative quest and I'll just call this QB Carcasso Collectibles. You can call this whatever you want. QB for quest blueprint, Carcasso is the name of my village, and collectibles is because it's collectibles. So in here I'm just going to call it the quest to be Carcasso Scrolls, and the description will be collect all the missing scrolls in Carcasso. Nice and easy. So we're not going to need the persistent tasks for this. So all we have to do from here is somehow give it a task to basically say go and get this item, because that's all a collectible is, an item. Whether you spray paint something or pick it up, it's a get item of some kind. So we could just use get item, but for saving's sake I'm not going to use the get item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own custom task. So I'm going to go to my narrative tasks folder, put this anywhere you want, and I'm going to create a new narrative task called get collectible, and there'll be a small reason why I'm doing it. So this will just be collectible group name. So the way this is going to work is this collectible is just all going to report under the same name. So it might be Carcasso Scrolls, and now that we've done that we need a collectible. So I already have a pickup function here, a pickup blueprint. This is super simple. All it is a trigger inside of it with a rotating movement just to make it rotate. Inside I have an overlap on that. If it's the player, it calls the pickup function. The pickup function by default checks if it's got a narrative task, finishes it if it doesn't, finish just destroys it, otherwise it comes through, completes the narrative task and finishes it. That's all pretty easy. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to right click pickup, I'm going to do a create a child blueprint, and I'm going to call this BP collectible, and I'm going to open it up. So in this collectible I'm going to first drop a static mesh inside of it for my scroll. I'm just going to pick the scroll like so, and I'm just going to disable anything I don't want on it. So I don't want any shadows on it. I'm going to disable all the collision and any nav mesh it will affect, so NPCs can walk through it if they really want, and that'll just sit rotating now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the event graph here, and you'll see it's already lined up some of the other events we need, which is fine, but I'm going to right click and I'm going to grab my pickup event like so. This will only work if you have created a parent blueprint like so, otherwise you won't be able to access the method. If you're not using parental blueprints and stuff, you can just do it on the event overlap trigger instead. But in my case, because I'm using the parent blueprint, I'm simply going to overwrite that function there. So instead of calling the other one, it will call this. Now it already checks for the play here before the pickup is even called, so we don't need to worry about any of that. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to come off and I'm going to type get narrative component from target, which is just getting the narrative from my player, and then from here I'm going to do complete task like so. So the first task we're going to complete is going to be our get collectible, just like that. So for the collectible group name, we need a name that is going to group all these collectibles together. If all your collectibles are spread around the entire game, think Grand Theft Auto 4, where you have pigeons spread across every single city, then you don't really need to do much here. You can just put it in and say pigeons or something. However, I want, just like Assassin's Creed or Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where you have collectibles per area roughly. So I'm going to drag off from here and I'm going to promote this to a variable called collection group name, just like that, and I'm going to tick the eyeball so I can edit it. But one thing I'm going to also do is drag off from here, from the narrative, and I'm going to complete another narrative task, 2 at the same time. And for this task I'm going to set it to get item, and on my pickup I have a narrative item name, and this narrative item name is specific to the item we're picking up. So I'm going to drag off here and go get narrative item name. So for the quest we're going to be using the collectible group name, so we're going to be saying all the scrolls in Carcasso or Los Santos. For the narrative item name, that's just going to say whether this specific item has been picked up or not. And then from here I just have a finish method that destroys the scroll once we pick it up, so I'm just going to drag off from here and just call finish. And now we have a collectible we can drop into the world like so. The collectible group name will be the name of the group of collectibles you have. In my case I'm going to call it the Carcasso Scrolls. Sounds like a football team. For the item name, this is going to be specific to this item, so you can randomly generate this if you want. I'm going to call this scroll 1, and that's how we use the item. So just to test it's working, you should be able to run up and just pick it up and nothing will happen because we're not done anything with it. Perfect. So the next thing we need is we need a way to spawn these scrolls automatically. So you can go two ways with this. You can dot them all on your map, that might be better for the artists, and then destroy them when you load narrative. I'm going to take the other approach because it's just me working on this, where I'm going to spawn them from narrative. So narrative will specifically check, do I need to spawn this? So to do this, I'm going to come to my narrative event here, and I'm going to create a new event in here. I'm going to create a new blueprint of type narrative event, and I'm going to call this any spawn collectible, like so. And I have a spawn pickup, but we're going to do some slightly different things. What you might be able to encompass in that, but I'm going to try and create all my events to be basic and straight to the point, a little microservicey, if you will. For the execute event, I'm going to come off here, and I'm going to check if I have completed the task. The task will be get item. The name I will promote to a variable. And for this collectible, I will call it collectible unique name. This will be the unique name of the collectible, such as scroll 1, scroll 2, scroll 3, or something random if you wish. And then depending on the branch here, if you have completed the task, I'm just going to return. There's nothing else we have to do because we've already completed it. We've already picked it up. If you haven't completed the task, then I'm going to spawn actor from class of type collectible. I'm going to break apart the transform, and I'm going to promote the location to a variable. And I'm going to set the collision to always spawn ignore collisions. And then from this, I'm going to drag off, and now we need to set those variables we've just done. So I'm going to set the collectible group name, which I will promote to a variable. Then I will also set the narrative item name, which I will promote to a variable, like so. Just make sure you tick all your eyeballs. And the final thing I'm going to do is set the graph, get display text. So I'm going to say spawn collectible collection unique name for the narrative item name. So spawn collectible for Carcasso scrolls for scroll 5 or something like that. And now that we've done this, we can now officially spawn our scrolls in the game. If you were wanting to go the other way and didn't want to spawn them, you could instead, on the collectible in the event begin, check if the task has been complete, just like we did here, and then destroy each collectible, which you will do inside the event begin just here. If you didn't want to go that route, you could use the same spawn collectible route here, but instead destroy it on true. And then I'm just going to copy the return. Perfect. So now we can go around and spawn our collectibles where we want them. So for the first one, I just want it there. So I'm going to copy the location like so. And in the Carcasso variables on the start here, I'm going to add an event, and the event will be spawn collectible. If you've got hundreds of collectibles, I'd advise you not to use this route. I'd advise you to use a data table instead, and then loop through them, spawning what you need. For the unique name, I'm going to set it to scroll 1. I've pasted in the location, and the group name will be the Carcasso scrolls, just like that. And now I'm just going to go and apply this X amount more times, just so we have a bunch of scrolls. And then to get the locations, I'm just going to move this demo scroll across, copy its location, and keep doing it. There, and now we have 4 scrolls spawning. So now we just need a quick way to start this quest to actually spawn them. So on the player, after you've spawned narrative up, I'm just going to literally come off from narrative, and I'm just going to do begin quest. And my quest will be Carcasso collectibles. Now there's different ways you can spawn these quests. You can spawn it as soon as you reach the area. In that case, just make a big collider around the area, and when it's hit, begin the quest and destroy the collider. But you might want to keep it to say you have arrived at a location. So now that we've done that, we need a way to actually complete the quest to pick up these scrolls. Now there's 2 ways you can do this depending what you want. Option 1 I will show you first, where we drag off, and I will do get collectible like so. And I will set the collectible group name to be Carcasso scrolls, and I'll set the quantity to be however many scrolls there are. So I'm going to do 4. Make sure the quantity equals the same amount of scrolls as you have, otherwise people will never be able to accomplish the achievement. And I'm going to remove the description from here like so. And after you complete it, I'm just going to succeed the quest. So I'm just going to set the description here to be collect all the scrolls in Carcasso, and now I can save it and go back. So you can see the quest has begun there, and you can see my 4 scrolls are spinning around. If I select one of the scrolls, you can see it's got a unique name, and it's got the collection group name there. So if I play the game and run into one, you will see that it completes 1 out of 4 because I have 4 scrolls. So if I collect the 4 scrolls, boom, the quest has now been completed and you've collected all your collectibles. The other way to achieve this, that you might not want it to count up, counting up is very Assassin's Creed or Grand Theft Auto, but maybe you don't want that, maybe you just want them to keep going until they find them all, a bit FarCry style. So I'm going to unbind these by holding Alt and clicking on that one and dragging it off just for a moment, and instead I'm going to drag out and do a get item. For this version, you don't need the get collectible code, and I'm going to tick the add multiple tasks button at the top here. And all I'm going to do is add 4 nodes here, like so. And I'm going to set the task to be get item, and I'm going to set the argument to be the individual item name. So scroll 1, the unique one. And I'm just going to tap hidden. And I'm going to do this for all of them. And as you can see, we have it saying get item scroll 1, 2, 3, 4, and collect all the scrolls in Carcasso. So if we begin here, you will still need a specific item that spawns, but all it has to do is complete the get item with your new unique ID. So you can see it says get all the scrolls in Carcasso. So you can see it will flash up every time, and once we complete it, it'll say quest succeeded. So if for some reason you don't want the player to see how many they should have, this is another way to achieve it. Personally, I prefer the first method where it tells you how many to do, and we can drop it in there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one way to pick up scrolls or collectibles in a game. And we could easily have multiple of these hanging around if you wanted quests for different cities, different farms and stuff like that. And if you wanted to give the player a reward after completing them, all you would do is add an event to the quest succeeded here. So in my case, I'm going to add it up, and I'm going to go spawn pickup, for example, and I'm going to set the class to be a palace head for some reason, because that's what I've got. And I'm going to guess I want it roughly here. That'll do. And I'm going to ignore the narrative task and the narrative name. That's something specific I've built, so I can mark it as done if I pick something up. So when we complete this now, once we pick up the 4 scrolls, 1, 2, 3, 4, the lion head will spawn. Congratulations, you've completed the quests. There we go, I can pick it up. If you wanted it like Grand Theft Auto where you incrementally get rewards, all you would do is edit your collectible blueprint here that checks how many times the quest has been complete, and if you've completed it X amount of times, then it will spawn whatever you need. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Super easy collectibles. It expands really, really well, and if you have hundreds like Grand Theft Auto and you don't fancy building it in manually, you can absolutely plug it into a data table of some kind and have them spawn dynamically. For me, this works for my case quite well because all my cities are going to be relatively small, and there we go. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I hope it helps. Any issues, please comment below, and I'll see you next time.